If I'm successful here tonight, when you leave here, you will leave here with concepts and strategies that you can begin to integrate into your life tonight to start to heal yourself. Start to work with how the body is supposed to work. You see, the body is a healing and rejuvenating system. The body heals itself every moment of every day. Every time you cut yourself, a mini miracle happens. A miracle happens. You don't have to think about healing that cut, but yet cells wind their way to that area and start pumping out little collagen fibers and elastin fibers, and a scab starts to form, and white blood cells come to the area and fight infection. You don't have to think about that. The body does that on its own. The body is a rejuvenating system that rejuvenates and heals itself every minute of every day until the day you die. On your deathbed, your body is healing itself. Cells in your body are beginning to work to heal itself as you're dying. In fact, after you die, your fingernails still grow. Did you know that? People who do embalming and work in mortuaries, they have to cut people's fingernails because their fingernails are still growing even after they die. Our cells are rejuvenating and healing all the time. Sickness should not happen. Sickness only happens if we override the healing system of the body. And what I want to do tonight is help you guys understand how we can integrate simple concepts that are going to make such sense, common sense to you. You're not going to understand how we've ever lived without these simple concepts, so that we can begin to take advantage of this healing and rejuvenating system of the body. So we're going to talk about nutrition. Let's picture nutrition, the subject of nutrition, as a book. This book of nutrition, if you will, has 7 chapters. We're going to call those chapters protein, fats, carbohydrates, fiber, water, vitamins, and minerals. Protein, fats, carbohydrates, fiber, water, vitamins, and minerals. And folks, that's all you need to know about nutrition. Now, there's going to be some specifics in there, and that's what we're going to talk about right now. Let's take protein first. Protein comes from the Greek word proteus. It means of primary importance, the most important. And there's a very good reason for that, because you see, after water, your body is composed mostly of protein. Now, we all know about protein for building muscles. If you're weightlifting or if you're an athlete, we all know that you need to have protein. But protein has got many, many other roles in the body. Did you know your digestion is dependent on protein because your digestive enzymes are made of protein? Did you know your immune system is based on protein because all your antibodies come from protein? Your hormone system is largely based on protein because your hormones, to a large extent, are made out of protein. Protein is involved in shuttling systems throughout the body. You guys have heard of HDL and LDL, no doubt. HDL cholesterol and LDL, what does that stand for? High density lipoprotein. Low density lipoprotein, because you see, protein carries fat around through the body. Protein is also involved in making sure that your blood-water balance is appropriate. So if your blood pressure is off, it could be because you don't have enough or you're getting too much protein. Protein is also involved in making sure that material makes it into the cells. Your cell is like a circle. You could picture a circle, and on that circle are little doorways. And those doorways admit nutrients in. And guess what those doorways are made of? Protein. So you can see that protein has many, many other roles in the body than just building up muscle and building up tissue. It's involved in almost every single system that you could think about in the body, and deficiencies in protein will manifest as all the health issues you can think of. So now that we know how important protein is, how do we integrate it into our life? The way we measure how important a protein is by something called biological value. We'll abbreviate that as BV, biological value. The highest biological value proteins are going to be the proteins that the body can work with the best. Because in nutrition, it's not merely how valuable a nutrient is, it's how well your body can work with it, how well your body can assimilate it. And biological value is a measurement of how well your body can assimilate certain proteins. The measurement of biological value is on a scale of 0 to 100, where 100 is the gold standard of biological value. 100 is a perfect biological value protein. You can think of it like 100% of that protein is utilized. Does anybody care to guess what is a 100 on a scale of 0 to 100? There you go. Excellent. Egg protein. Egg protein is the gold standard of protein. And nobody in this room should believe that silliness about eggs having cholesterol and you shouldn't eat eggs. Everybody needs to eat eggs. Eggs are not only the perfect protein, in general, they're the perfect food. And to deprive yourselves of eggs is to deprive yourself of a powerful, powerful God-given food, because not only are eggs rich in protein, but they're rich in beta-carotene, and they're rich in essential fatty acids, and they're rich in magnesium, and they're rich in zinc, and they're rich in everything that's required to build a life, because what is an egg? It's a life. An egg is rich in everything that's required to build a life, and they're a vital, vital component of dietary good health. But in terms of biological value of protein, egg protein is the perfect assimilatable protein. And by the way, when you're eating eggs, you want the yolk and the white. You want the whole picture. Okay, most of the good stuff is actually in the yolk, but the protein is in the white portion. And egg protein is perfectly assimilatable by the body. Egg has about 7 grams of protein, and it gets a 100 on a scale of 0 to 100. It's the gold standard of protein. But there's one protein that's even better than egg protein. If egg protein is a 100, this special protein is actually a 120. It's actually 20% better than the gold standard of protein. Does anybody know what that protein is? No? Who said that? Here, there you go. Whey protein, W-H-E-Y, whey protein. Whey protein is the protein of choice for people who are serious about their protein needs. Football players, weightlifters, athletes of all type. If you are serious about your protein needs, you know about whey protein. If an athlete is doing something, folks, we want to start to pay attention. If an athlete is doing something for their health, we as average folks want to start to pay attention because we're all athletes. Just getting out of bed in the morning is an athletic event. Just getting through our day requires athleticism. If an athlete is doing something nutritionally, we want to start to pay attention to it. And by far and away, whey protein is the protein of choice for athletes and bodybuilders and football players and baseball players and people who need to have muscle mass and people who need to be healthy. And there's several reasons for that. Number one, whey protein is even more available to the body than eggs. In fact, whey protein is the most perfect food and the most perfectly absorbed food next to mother's milk. Only mother's milk is better for you than whey protein. Whey, just so you know where it comes from, is a derivative of the cheese manufacturing process. Milk, as it turns out, cow's milk, is not a great health food. In fact, milk does not do a body good. Milk is not a health food. Human beings are the only animals that drink another animal's milk. You see, milk contains components to build an animal of that type. And cow's milk contains the perfect components to build a cow. So unless you want to be a cow, you don't want to be drinking cow's milk. So in cheese making, you take milk, and what happens when you make the cheese is the milk is divided into 2 fractions. The bottom fraction is called casein. The top fraction is called whey. Casein has a curdy nature, and it's used to make cheese. In fact, casein is one of the main reasons milk is not a health food, because casein has a gummy sort of nature. Do you ever see mozzarella cheese? You know how you pull that mozzarella cheese? That's the casein that causes that gumminess, that causes that rubberiness. And that casein is very allergenic, and it accounts for much of the allergies that are associated with milk. Not only that, but the casein can gum up your intestines, and it can prevent nutrients from getting into the system. Many people, after they drink milk, will get mucousy. Some people won't even notice that they're mucousy all the time because they're drinking milk. A lot of times you'll see kids who are mucousy. It's because they're drinking cow's milk, and this is in large part due to the casein. So the casein has a curdy nature to it, has a gummy nature to it. At the top, the liquidy portion is whey. And that liquidy portion has none of the downside of milk because all of the downside of milk is located in the casein, in the curds. Little Miss Muffet sat on her tuffet eating her curds and whey. That's where we get that rhyme from, curds and whey. So when we get rid of the curds from the milk, all that's left behind is the whey. In fact, if you go to the health food store, you can get something called sweet dairy whey. And sweet dairy whey is very powerful for several reasons. Sweet dairy whey is a rich source of food for your natural bacteria. Sweet dairy whey is also a powerful source of protein. And we can extract that out of the sweet dairy whey, and that's where we get whey protein. And why is whey protein so important for the body? Well, not only is whey protein perfectly bioavailable, but whey protein is rich in factors that the mother passes on to the baby to help the baby's immune system, the baby calf's immune system. They're called immune globulins. Whey protein is rich in immune globulins that the mother passes on to the baby. You see, babies, when they're born, their immune systems are depressed. they don't have very good immune systems. In mother's milk, immune factors will be passed on, and in whey protein, there are immune globulins that you can put into your body, and your body will assimilate as its own. So not only do you get a perfectly bioavailable protein, but you get immune globulins that can help build your immunity. Now this is miraculous. You can actually eat a food that will support your body's own immune system. That's what whey protein is. Whey protein is also a rich source of a natural antibiotic called lactoferrin. Lactoferrin is a natural antibiotic. And when you eat whey protein, you get the lactoferrin, you get your antibiotic levels up. You can fight diseases better. So not only is whey protein an incredibly important protein for bioavailability because it's bioavailable to the body, but it's a powerful protein for building the immune system. But there's more, because you see, proteins are made up of something called amino acids. I'm sure you guys have all heard of amino acids, and I'm going to talk about those in a little bit. Among the most important amino acids are something called branched chain amino acids. That's abbreviated BCAAs, branched chain amino acids. Now, branched chain amino acids are the most important amino acids for building muscle, for building tissue. Whey protein is nature's richest source of branched chain amino acids. And every time you get a dose of whey protein, you're getting almost 25% branched chain amino acids. And the branched chain amino acids, you don't have to remember this, are valine, leucine, isoleucine, and a magical amino acid called tryptophan. Tryptophan is a magical amino acid because of its many, many vital roles in the body. Not only is it a critical amino acid for building muscle and building tissue, but tryptophan is nature's sleepy time amino acid. Milk is rich in tryptophan. That's why mothers know to give warm milk to babies. Tryptophan also helps your body make happy hormones, hormones that go into your brain and make you feel happy. So you think tryptophan is a vital nutrient. You think you should be able to get tryptophan. Well, you know what? Tryptophan is illegal. You can't get tryptophan at the health food store. Tryptophan is illegal. You have to get a prescription for this very, very vital substance because the government, and we won't get into that now, has decided that you shouldn't have tryptophan, as vital as this is. Tryptophan is so vital that the government makes baby food manufacturers put it in the baby food. But after you're a baby, you can't have tryptophan unless you have a prescription from your doctor. Well, I'm here to tell you whey protein is a rich, natural source of tryptophan, one of the best. So you've got branched chain amino acids, you've got immune factors, you've got incredible bioavailability, and you've got good taste as well because whey protein tastes good. Tastes kind of milky. Just add water to it and you drink it. So whey protein is about 120 on the scale of 0 to 100. Egg protein is about 100. It's a gold standard. Where does steak fit in? Some people say, oh, I get plenty of protein. I eat hamburgers every day. Okay, I eat steak all the time. Big problem. Because not only is meat low in the scale of bioavailability, cooked meat, but meat protein contains hormones, contains antibiotics, contains all of the toxins that are fed to the cattle to make them fat, such as estrogens. Meat protein is not a healthy food. Now, we are meat eaters, however, and we are genetically supposed to be eating meat. Our caveman ancestors, we ate meat, but the way we ate meat was we stalked the meat. The animals were eating grass. Grass is a rich source of nutrients. Grass-fed animals have a rich source of nutrients, essential fatty acids, minerals. When you stalk an antelope, you have to hunt it. You have to work for it. And the antelope is eating wild grass. It's healthy. It doesn't have any hormones. So meat in general is a good food, but it's the cooking and it's the processing of meat, and it's the farming of meat that is so problematic. The way we farm meat is we increase the animal's fat content so we can have nice marbled meat. This is why meat is so unhealthy. It's not meat per se, it's how we process the meat and how we eat the meat, how we cook the meat that makes it so problematic. So by far and away, most of our protein for adequate protein requirements should come from whey and should come from eggs, and to a lesser extent from fish and from beans. First you want whey and eggs, then fish and beans. Last on the list is cooked meat. In fact, cooked meat has a bioavailability around 30 or 40 compared to 100 and 120. By the way, protein requires enzymes to be digested. It requires acid in the stomach to be digested. The worst thing you can do is take an antacid after you've eaten protein. It's incredibly counterproductive because you've deprived the body of its ability to digest the protein. Achlorhydria is the technical name for low stomach acid. And achlorhydria, low stomach acid, is just as significant a problem, if not more of a problem, than too much stomach acid. So if you're going to take your antacids, you don't want to take them after you've eaten a high-protein meal. You'll deprive your body of its ability to digest the protein. Now, carbohydrates, by the way, require alkaline enzymes to be digested, while proteins require acid enzymes to be digested. That's why you don't want to mix carbohydrates with protein. That's why sandwiches are among the worst foods that you can eat. How do you like that? I don't want you just to take my word for it. I want you to understand how that works. A sandwich is made of bread, which requires alkaline enzymes, and protein, which requires acid enzymes. Potatoes and eggs are the same way. Any carbohydrate is going to be counteracted by the enzymes that are required to digest the protein, and neither will get digested appropriately. So one of the most important strategies that we can incorporate into our lives for good health is to watch how we're combining our different types of food. Digestive enzymes are very helpful for people who have problems eating protein. Now, sometimes people will hear about protein and they'll start to up their levels of protein and they'll get gas. That's because they're not making enough stomach acid or digestive enzymes to digest the protein. The answer there is to increase the amount of stomach acid, and there's supplements that you can take to increase stomach acid. The most important one is called betaine hydrochloride. Apple cider vinegar is a way that you can increase your stomach acid as well. Then there's digestive enzymes that you can take when you increase your protein load. By the way, digestive enzymes, not only do they digest protein from food, but digestive enzymes will actually digest clots that can form arthritis. They can digest clots that can form atherosclerosis as well. Digestive enzymes can be an overall health tool. And guess what digestive enzymes are made out of? Protein. So you can see how vitally important protein is, and you can see how much more than building tissue is involved in protein. Chapter 2, fats. Fats are probably the most misunderstood of all of our nutrients. Do you know that here in America we're suffering from a fat deficiency? How do you like that? We're actually suffering from a fat deficiency, and many of our diseases, from cancer to heart disease to diabetes, are actually manifestations of fat deficiencies. What do I mean by that? Deficiencies in the right kinds of fat. We're getting plenty of the bad fats. We're not getting any of the good fats unless we're supplementing, because you see there are fats that heal and there are fats that kill. There are fats that are responsible for every healing process in the body, and there's fats that are responsible for every degenerative process in the body. And guess what kind of fats we're getting plenty of? We're getting plenty of the bad fats. In nutrition, you have two kinds of nutrients. You have nutrients that are essential and nutrients that are unessential. Essential in nutrition means you better get it from your diet because your body can't make any of it. And if you don't get them, your body's going to be dysfunctional in one way or another. So that's a key distinction we want to make. Essential versus unessential. Now we have essential amino acids, essential proteins, that is proteins that you better get from your diet. And we also have essential fatty acids. That is fats that you have to get from your diet. And there's two kinds of essential fatty acids, and they're called omega-3 and omega-6. And you need them both, and they're not going to be found in very much food. So that tells you you have to supplement. You know, ideally, we should be able to get all the nutrients that we need from food. That's the way it's supposed to be. We should be able to eat a balanced diet and be able to have whole fruits and whole vegetables and whole grains and whole foods so that we get all our nutrients from our foods, but we can't do that anymore. Because of our 21st century lifestyle, because of our fast-paced lifestyle, because of food processing, we just can't get the nutrients that we need from food. And the most difficult nutrients to get from our food are the unstablest nutrients. There's some nutrients that are so active that they're very unstable. They react with light, they react with oxygen, they react with heat to disappear. And among the most unstablest of all the nutrients are the essential fatty acids. On the one hand, they're the most active of all nutrients. In fact, essential fatty acids are where a plant stores sunlight. You can think of essential fatty acids as a little battery, a sunlight battery. The sun is stored in essential fatty acids, and that accounts for their incredible high energy. Fats have twice as much energy as any other nutrient. Fats are little energy batteries for us. They're ways that the body can capture energy. In fact, they're so vital that the body has decided that it would store fats. It has a special place to store fats. Every single cell, you have 100 trillion cells, by the way, think about that. Every single one of your cells is wrapped around with a layer of fat because that's where the body stores the fat. So that when the body needs to have some fat, It can just pull it out of the cells. Some enzyme reactions happen, and some of that fat, essential fat, comes out of the cell membrane. And there's a whole serious mechanism for doing this. Why has the body evolved a mechanism for storing fats and being able to pull fats out of the cells? Well, lots of reasons, but the number one most important reason is that fats, essential fatty acids, are used to make something called master hormones. Now, hormones are special chemicals that turn systems on in the body. Master hormones are hormones that control the hormones. You know them as prostaglandins, perhaps. You've heard of prostaglandins. Prostaglandins are examples of master hormones. They're the hormones that turn on the hormones. They're the super hormones. And they're powerfully, powerfully important for every single system in the body, especially the opening and closing systems. The blood vessel systems, the muscle systems, the nervous systems are all dependent on master hormones. And master hormones come directly from essential fatty acids, directly, which we're not getting enough of, which we don't get any of unless we're supplementing. Can you begin to see the picture here? Can you begin to see why we're not as healthy as we should be? Has anybody's doctor told them about essential fatty acids being turned into master hormones? This is a biochemical fact that's been known for 100 years. You can't get master hormones unless you're getting essential fatty acids. Eicosanoids is the fancy chemical name for master hormones. Essential fatty acids' relationship to eicosanoids accounts for essential fatty acids' critical nature in every single disease state that you can think of. Every single disease state you can think of is mediated by eicosanoids, which come from essential fatty acids. That's why they're so vital, and that's why everybody needs to be supplementing with them every single day. The way you know that you're deficient in fats and essential fatty acids is if you have a fat craving. That is, if you crave French fries, if you crave potato chips, if you crave pizza, if you crave ice cream, if you crave dairy products. These are all indications to you that you're deficient in essential fatty acids. French fries should never smell good to you. If you think French fries smell good, that's your body crying out for essential fatty acids. When you start to supplement with essential fatty acids, fatty foods won't taste good to you because you will have met your body's requirement for fat. And that's the beautiful thing about fat and protein. You can't overeat good fat and good protein because your body will turn off. Nobody can binge on steak. Nobody can binge on eggs. Nobody can binge on whey protein because there are levels to how much your body can handle, and it won't taste good to you after that. When you've had enough good fats, fats won't taste good to you. The thought of fats will turn you off when you've met your body's requirement for good fats. The problem is, we're feeding ourselves the bad fats, and our body doesn't know what to do with it. So of course it does what most kids do when the room's messy. It sticks everything under the bed, and it sticks it in our hearts, and it sticks in all the little nooks and crannies, and that's what happens with fats. They get stuck into the little nooks and crannies in our bodies. But the good fats can get used by the body. That's why good fats are actually a weight loss tool. Because good fats get burned for energy. Good fats get stored in cell membranes to make new tissue, to make new cells. Bad fats get turned into the kind of fat that stays in your heart or stays in your legs or stays in your belly. The good fats can get used. The good fats can get burned for energy. And the good fats fill you up. In fact, if you're really hungry, do a little swig of good fats, essential fatty acid fats. It'll kill your appetite. It's one of the best weight loss tools that there is, good fats. Nobody should ever be on a low-fat diet. And a low-fat diet is one of the most unhealthy diets that you can be on. A low-fat diet keeps your body from being able to absorb fat-soluble nutrients. A low-fat diet deprives your body of an essential source of energy because fats have twice as much energy as any other nutrients. People on low-fat diets get very depressed. Why? Because our brain is made up of fat. Everybody in this room is a fathead. Everybody in this room has a brain that's made up of 60% fat, and one of the first things that happens when you're on a low-fat diet is you get sluggish and you get tired because your brain doesn't have energy to work with. Now, everybody knows about glucose for the brain and glucose for energy. Glucose gives us quick energy, but fats give us sustained, long-burning energy, long-acting energy. That's the way the body likes to work. It doesn't want to have quick, fiery energy. It wants to have long, slow-acting energy. And that's what fats do. They provide the body with long, slow-acting energy. Because the brain is mostly made up of fat, the kindest gift that a mother can give her baby is to be on essential fatty acids while the baby is in the womb. Even after the baby is born, if the mother is breastfeeding, the baby will be smarter. The baby will have a better brain. Many studies show that babies have better brains when their mothers are supplemented with essential fatty acids. Essential fatty acids are one of the most important tools for lubricating the body. Any issues of lubrication, such as arthritis, can be helped by supplementing with essential fatty acids. When circulation gets sticky because of bad fats, essential fatty acids can come to the rescue to liquefy the fats. And essential fatty acids are one of the most important tools for people who have heart disease. Essential fatty acids are much more important to protect the heart than any drug you can name. And heart drugs are among the most toxic drugs of all, by the way. Okay, so essential fatty acids come in two varieties, omega-3 and omega-6. Let's talk about each one of those. Omega-3 is found in fish and in flax and in hemp seed. Those are the three main sources of omega-3. It's very difficult to get omega-3 fats. Omega-3 fats open things up, open up blood vessels, for example. They're a relaxing fat, omega-3s. The other fat that's essential is called omega-6. Omega-6 comes from sunflower and safflower and soy, sesame, corn, many sources of omega-6. Much more difficult to get omega-3. So if you're going to supplement with a fatty acid, a lot of people will say, well, don't worry about your omega-6s because you get plenty of omega-6s. Just take your omega-3s. The problem with that is, even though theoretically we're supposed to get enough omega-6s, we don't because we cook our fats. Not only that, but because fats are so unstable, as soon as the light hits the fat, it destroys the essential fatty acid. Do you ever wonder why all those oils that you get at the supermarket, those delicious oils, come in a clear bottle? Okay, how can they come in a clear bottle if fats are so unstable? Well, that's because the oil manufacturers take all the good stuff out, and all we're left with is the carcass. And that's what the oils are. They're just the carcass. They're the emptiness. There's nothing in there to go unstable. That's why they can be in a clear bottle. You never want your fats in a clear bottle if they're going to be filled with nutrients, because light is the enemy of essential fatty acids. Light and heat are the two enemies of EFAs, essential fatty acids. That's why you don't want to cook with your essential fatty acids either. You want to put your essential fatty acids on your food raw. And remember, fats need to be mixed with proteins because they go together. Remember, protein carries fat around. So the best place to put your fat is on your hard-boiled eggs or on your protein. In your smoothie with whey, put your essential fatty acids because fats get shuttled around the body with protein. Just like we said earlier, you don't want carbohydrates with protein. You do want fats with protein. Food combining becomes an important healthcare strategy. So omega-6s and omega-3s are the two essential fatty acids. Some people will say, what about olive oil? Olive oil is a great oil, and it's a very healthy oil, but it doesn't have essential fatty acids. And if your main source of fat is olive oil, you will not get enough essential fatty acids. By the way, dry skin is a classic sign of fat deficiency. Dry skin is a classic sign of fat deficiency. And one of the first things that happens when you start to supplement with essential fatty acids is your skin improves. Your dry skin improves. Another thing that happens when women start taking essential fatty acids is their menstrual cramps go away, because menstrual cramps are mediated by these master hormones. And if you're not getting the master hormones, your muscles and your blood vessels don't open and close appropriately, and that's what a menstrual cramp is. It's when the muscles aren't firing appropriately, partially in response to prostaglandin deficiencies. So essential fatty acids become a tool to help women with menstrual cramps. In fact, that's how I got into essential fatty acids. I started my pharmacy to dispense EFAs for people's skin, and women would come back and their cramps went away within a month. And if they skipped a month, they got all confident, they said, oh, I don't need to take these anymore, cramps came back. So EFAs are a vital nutrient. Fats are a vital nutrient. Fats are not a four-letter word, but it has to be the good fats, not the bad fats. Fats are very interesting because, you see, the body, when you eat a food, will take that food and break it apart and sort of store it in little pieces and then rearrange it as it's needed. Does that make sense? Kind of takes the little pieces apart, stores it, and then rearrange it as it's needed. And that's what it does with nutrients, most nutrients, except for fats. When you eat a fat, it goes right into your blood, and your body tries to work with that fat as it is. And that means it tries to make cells out of the kind of fats that we're eating. That's why most of us are walking around with Hershey bar cells and pizza pie cells and all the kind of cells that are sticky and hard and don't make for good health. When the body tries to make a cell with a sticky, hard fat, you get a sticky, hard cell. And a sticky, hard cell will not let nutrients in. An essential fatty acid glucose-based cell is flexible. It flows. Nutrients can flow in and out appropriately. One of the main reasons we're so sick is because the cells that we're making can't absorb nutrients like they're supposed to because we're not building them out of the right fats. So that's chapter 2, fats, protein and fats. Just with these 2 chapters, by the way, you already know more than most of your doctors about nutrition. Just with those 2 chapters, but there's more. Chapter 3 is called carbohydrates. And just like there's 2 nutrients, we talked about essential protein, essential amino acids, we talked about essential fatty acids, there's one nutrient that's not essential. There's one nutrient that you don't need to have in your diet because your body can make. There's one nutrient that's unessential, and that's the nutrient that's on the bottom of the food pyramid that you're supposed to have 6 to 11 servings of every day. That's the one nutrient that you can't avoid if you're outside and you need to get some food at a restaurant or in a fast food place. And that's the one nutrient that farmers feed their cattle when they want to make their cattle big and fat. And that's the one nutrient that we're feeding our children every morning in the form of cereal, and that's the nutrient that we call carbohydrates. Carbohydrates can be made by the body. And carbohydrates, refined carbohydrates, processed carbohydrates, 20th century and 21st century carbohydrates are the bane of Western civilization. They are destroying our civilization, refined carbohydrates. You mark the decline of the health of Americans and the world in general on the doorstep of the refining of carbohydrates. How we refine carbohydrates. Let's talk about that for a moment. The main source of carbohydrates is grains. And when we learned how to farm 5,000 years ago in ancient Egypt, we learned how to take carbohydrates and make them readily available. But that wasn't a problem because carbohydrates from grains are a rich source in zinc, and they're a rich source of magnesium, and they're a rich source of B vitamins. Grains are a rich source of all the nutrients that are required to absorb the carbohydrates. Grains have everything in them that's required for our body to absorb the sugar. By the way, carbohydrates equals sugar. It's the same word. So when you hear me say carbohydrates, you can think sugar. And when you hear sugar, you can think carbohydrates. The same word. A grain, a wheat grain, for example, has everything we need to digest the sugar. In fact, chromium and vanadium, which arguably are 2 of the most important and critical nutrients for absorbing sugar, are found in enormous quantities in grains. But about the turn of the 20th century, 1900s or so, what we learned how to do was throw all the chromium out, throw all the vanadium out, throw all the B vitamins out, throw all the magnesium out, throw all the zinc out, throw all the required cofactors for absorbing the sugar out, and get left with nice, white, fluffy flour. And that is what's killing us and what's making us fat and what's destroying our children's minds. Because that nice, white, fluffy flour gets processed by the body like an emergency fashion. Because flour is sugar, and it's very explosive to the body. The role sugar has in the body is to provide quick, explosive energy. Sugar is very explosive to the body. Remember, flour is sugar. Sugar's explosive nature is designed in the body to provide quick turbo energy for running from a saber-toothed tiger, for example, for doing some kind of quick mental process real quick. Sugar is a very explosive energy. But the body doesn't like explosive energy. Remember, the body likes long, sustained energy. So the body has evolved a system for damping that quick burst energy. In other words, you eat sugar, and a whole emergency system kicks in to take that sugar out, to pull that sugar out of the blood because of sugar's very explosive nature. That system is called your insulin system. In fact, when you eat sugar or when you eat flour, refined flour or cereal or breads, it's like a 4-alarm fire in your body. All of a sudden, ding, 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 the bells are all going off. Let's figure out what to do with this fire. There's all this sugar coming into the body. So the pancreas turns on and sends insulin to the rescue. You can think of insulin like firemen to put out the fire. And it puts out the fire by pulling all the blood sugar out of your blood. And then you feel tired, of course. So what happens? We go grab another Snickers bar, a glass of orange juice, or a piece of fruit, and all of a sudden, ding, 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 a 4-alarm fire, and the pancreas sends out the insulin, pulls all the blood sugar out. We feel tired again. And this goes on and on and on, and go on for 30 or 40 or 50 years, until finally one day, we eat a Snickers bar, and our pancreas says, forget it, I'm tired, I was out there last hour, I'm done. And the blood sugar starts to build up. And you know what we call that? Diabetes. Okay, now folks, diabetes is a serious, serious disease. Diabetes is up 30% over the last 9 years. That is an epidemic. That is an epidemic, folks. Diabetes is an epidemic. It's the #1 cause of blindness. It's the #1 cause of amputation, and it's the 3rd leading cause of death after only heart disease and cancer. It's a serious, deadly problem. And it didn't exist before the turn of the century. It didn't exist before we learned how to refine our grains. And you can lay the problem smack dab on the doorstep of problems with digesting sugars and carbohydrates. But it's even worse than that, because now we have prediabetes. And prediabetes is when our body doesn't listen to insulin anymore. Prediabetes is when we don't know that we're getting diabetes, but we're starting to get abdominal obesity. Or we're starting to lose minerals because as insulin levels rise, calcium gets excreted. As insulin levels rise, magnesium gets excreted to a larger extent. Calcium and magnesium are involved in blood pressure regulation, in heart regulation. So as insulin levels rise, our circulatory systems go awry. And we don't know what's causing our hypertension. Your doctor will say, we don't know what caused it, but take this blood pressure pill. And the blood pressure pill makes more minerals leave your body, so your blood pressure goes up again. And then your heart becomes defective. And all of this is because of imbalances in carbohydrates and sugar metabolism, because of problems with insulin. Some doctors will check your blood sugar, but they'll forget to check your insulin levels. You may think your blood sugar is normal, but your insulin is way high because your insulin is compensating for levels in blood sugar. When your insulin levels go off the charts, you may not think you have problems with diabetes because your blood sugar is being controlled, but insulin is working its negativity on the body by causing the excretion of minerals, by causing malabsorptions in fat, by changing how nutrients are absorbed into cells. Elevated insulin is a serious problem. If anybody suspects diabetes, don't worry about your blood sugar, check your insulin. That's the important parameter. Now, what happens when sugar starts to build up in the body? Well, we said sugar is very explosive. Sugar explodes things. Do you know what sugar's favorite thing to explode is? Protein. Sugar explodes protein. Women know this when they bake bread. Sometimes they'll put an egg yolk on top of the bread, right? What happens? You get a nice brown effect on top of the bread. Or you can put sugar on top of ham, and you get a glazed ham. Makes it look nice and glazed and pretty and brown. Well, guess what, folks? That same browning happens inside your body when sugar levels build up. We brown from the inside up. It's called glycosylation. And in chemistry, we call it the browning effect. It's the effect sugar has on protein. Excess sugar levels will brown your heart. They'll brown your glands. They'll brown your brain. They'll brown your hemoglobin. They'll brown your hormones. In fact, the fancy name for the browning that takes place when sugar levels build up is advanced, A, glycosylated, G, end products, E, age. And it is the cause of aging. Sugaring of proteins in the body, sugaring of glands is the cause of aging. We're candying ourselves to death. We're turning into candy inside. We're browning. The same thing that happens when you put sugar on top of ham happens inside the body when sugar levels arise. What kind of tissues start to sugar? Anything with protein. Any gland. Your collagen in your face, wrinkles, can be caused by excess sugar levels. The collagen in your coronary arteries can be browned by excess sugar levels. That's why excess sugar levels and excess insulin and refined carbohydrates are the #1 cause of the decline of health that we're suffering from in this country. There is no better thing that you can do for your health. There's no better strategy that you can employ in your life to take care of your health than to knock out the refined carbohydrates, eliminate the refined carbohydrates. If it comes in a box, you don't want to eat it. And the cereal that we're feeding our kids is not only causing them to have a lifetime curse of blood sugar imbalances and possible diabetes, but it's also affecting their moods. Some kids are eating 2 bowls of cereal and 2 glasses of orange juice. That's a full 48 to 50 to 60 grams of sugar every morning before they go to school. It's no wonder why they're going crazy in school. It's no wonder why they have attention deficit disorder. It's because of the sugars and the cereals that we're eating. You're better off eating the box than the cereal. At least you get fiber if you eat the box. The cereal is deadly. What do farmers feed their cattle when they want to make their cattle big and fat? Grains, corn, the same things that we're feeding our kids, the same things that we're eating. Can you see where our strategies are wrong? Can you see why we're as unhealthy as we are? Our strategies are incorrect. And nobody's told us the correct strategies. Now, carbohydrates have an important role in the body, and nobody's saying to eliminate carbohydrates. What we're saying is to eliminate refined carbohydrates. It's the refining process. It's the way we make our carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are cheap. There's lots of profit margin in a box of cereal. It's the carbohydrate manufacturers that are the richest companies in the world. By the way, cholesterol, which has now been debunked as a cause of heart disease, excess cholesterol, all the studies that were done on cholesterol and how bad cholesterol was for our health were funded by the grain companies at the University of Minnesota. That's where the studies were done on how bad cholesterol is, because cholesterol is only found in animal products. It's not found in grains. Cholesterol, by the way, is a vital substance. It's vital for the manufacture of numerous hormones in the body. It's vital for the manufacture of every single cell in the body. And most of the cholesterol, by the way, that we have in our blood is made by our body. So to try and prevent heart disease by controlling the amount of cholesterol that you have in your diet is a pretty silly strategy. Not only that, but the drugs that they give us to lower our cholesterol actually deplete our body of coenzyme Q10, which is vitally important for the heart. That's why cholesterol-lowering drugs are among the deadliest drugs of all. In fact, when you get put on a cholesterol-lowering drug, your pharmacist is supposed to give you a little piece of paper that says, have your liver checked every 6 months because of how toxic this drug is. Well, folks, if you need to have your liver checked every 6 months from some substance, you don't want to take that substance. That tells you it's a toxic substance. There's a problem when we're treating ourselves, when we're taking care of our health with substances that require monitoring of our organs. And cholesterol-lowering drugs are among the deadliest drugs of all. And you don't have to worry about elevated cholesterol anyway. In fact, low cholesterol is a significant problem. And low cholesterol is a cause of many deaths, especially deaths from suicide and from mood changes, because cholesterol is involved in brain function. Okay, so now we see that there's 2 essential nutrients, there's 1 non-essential nutrient. The non-essential nutrient is the one that the food pyramid says we need to have 6 to 11 servings of every day. Okay, you can see a problem right there. And if you learn nothing else today, at least you know that protein and fats are essential, carbohydrates are not. We want to lower the amount of refined carbohydrates. Now, as I said earlier, carbohydrates are an important nutrient, but the carbohydrates that we want are the carbohydrates that come from vegetables. And let me tell you something, folks. You can't possibly eat enough vegetables, raw vegetables, or slightly steamed. They're the most powerful food on the planet, and we need to be eating lots of them. Every meal, for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner. Every meal. And by the way, let me say this, as far as protein goes. Every single meal should begin with a little bit of protein. If you begin every meal with protein, you will eat less. And the best way that you can live a long, healthy life is to eat less. There's something that scientists call today the CRAN diet, which stands for calorie restriction with adequate nutrition. The less you eat, the longer you live. And one of the best strategies you can employ for eating less is to start every meal with protein. Do you know what happens when you start every meal with carbohydrates, by the way? You want more. Your appetite increases. Because one of the things that insulin does is it makes you hungry. Insulin makes you hungry. When you elevate your insulin levels, you feel hungry. Restaurants know this. Why do you think they start you off with a nice big basket of bread before the meal? So you'll eat more. You'll be hungrier. Protein has the opposite effect. Protein increases something called glucagon, which is the antagonist of insulin. If insulin makes you hungry, glucagon makes you full. Insulin causes storage, glucagon causes energy production. So if you begin every meal with protein, you'll eat less. Other good times to do your protein are after you exercise. After you exercise, your body wants to just suck up protein the way a dry sponge sucks up water. So begin every meal with protein. Make sure you're getting fats in every meal, and eat a lot less refined carbohydrates, hopefully no refined carbohydrates. Those are the first 3 chapters of our little handbook on nutrition. Chapter 4, we'll call fiber. Fiber is a type of carbohydrate, and it's very misunderstood. There's 2 kinds of fibers, soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. And the role fiber has in the body is of flushing toxins through the body, flushing everything through the body. That's what fiber does. It acts like a broom to sweep things out of the body. Fiber keeps you regular. We need to be regular, because if we're not regular, toxins build up in the lower digestive tract. And you know what happens then is they putrefy in the lower digestive tract. And colorectal cancer is the #2 cancer killer in this country. And cultures that eat a lot of fiber don't get colorectal cancer, because fiber flushes everything through. The term we give the time it takes for a food to go in your mouth and out the other end is called transit time. And you want to have a transit time of about 12 to 24 hours. You can test your own transit time by eating some charcoal capsules or drinking some beet juice and seeing how long it is before your stools turn red or black. It should be between 12 and 24 hours. If it's not, you can be pretty sure you're not getting enough fiber, because one of the things fiber does is it moves everything through. And by not enough fiber, I mean 50 to 60 grams of fiber every day. A teaspoon has about 5 grams. So we're talking 10 to 12 teaspoons of fiber every day. The recommended daily allowance of fiber is 25 grams. Most of us are lucky to get 5 grams of fiber. One of the main reasons carbohydrates are such a problem is because there's no fiber in them. And fiber slows up the release of sugar. One of the best healthcare strategies that you can employ, get yourself a little coffee grinder. It costs $10 or $15. And then go to the health food store and get a bunch of flax seeds and sunflower seeds, and every morning put them in the coffee grinder, press a little button, and you got the most delicious tasting fiber you can imagine. It's a lot cheaper than Metamucil and a lot better for you. And if you do it with flax, you're getting essential fatty acids, and you're getting protein, and you're getting vitamins in addition to your fiber. And then you take that fiber and you sprinkle it on everything, especially your carbohydrate foods. Your cereals, your yogurts, your ice cream, anything with carbohydrates in it will have the sugar slowed up by the fiber. Does that make sense? You just sprinkle it on everything, and it tastes delicious on top of that. And if you mix it with a little essential fatty acid, you can make a nice spread. And you can spread it on vegetables, you can spread it on fruits, and you can make sure that you're getting enough fiber. One of the main things fiber does, by the way, is it provides energy for your colon. Your colon runs on something called butyric acid. And butyric acid is made from fiber. You can't get it in very many foods, but your body can make it if you eat enough fiber. For women, fiber helps stabilize estrogen. Actually, for men too, for everybody. Too much estrogen, estrogenization, is one of the major health issues that we face as a society. Too much estrogen causes estrogenic cancers. Breast cancer, for example, is a result of too much estrogen. Endometrial cancer, all the female cancers, prostate cancer can be caused by too much estrogen. We're over-estrogenized. Too much estrogen comes from meat because farmers feed meat estrogen to make them fat. Too much estrogen comes from milk because the cows have estrogen that goes into the milk. Plastics, when they're heated, release estrogens, estrogen-like compounds. Pesticides release estrogen-like compounds. Many of the chemicals that are in our culture, and by the way, we have 70,000 chemicals now, most of which did not exist 100 years ago, act like estrogen in the body. There was a whole article in Time magazine, some people may have seen, how little girls are reaching puberty at an earlier and earlier age. There are whole species that are becoming extinct because they're becoming infertile. In fact, infertility in humans is a problem now, all because of too much estrogen. We're swimming in estrogen, the wrong kinds of estrogen. And one of the best ways that we can protect ourselves from estrogen is by increasing fiber, because fiber flushes estrogen through. Fiber also supports the body's detoxifying system. So one of the best ways you can detoxify your body is to increase your fiber content. Fibrous foods are going to be your vegetables and your fruits, and to a lesser extent your grains. Fiber comes in two kinds. Soluble fiber is the kind of fiber that's in apples and pears. It swells when it hits liquid. It fills you up. Guar gum, for example, is a classic soluble fiber. Soluble fibers are a great diet tool because they fill you up. If you think you're going out to a party and you're going to eat a lot, take some fiber, some guar gum, for example, or some pectin. It'll fill you up. Insoluble fiber is the kind of fiber that's in celery. It's like wiry fiber. And insoluble fiber is the broom fiber that sweeps everything out. And you need both kinds, insoluble fiber and soluble fiber. The flax and the sunflower seed that I was telling about earlier has both kinds. That's why it's such an important health tool. Okay, you want to make sure you're regular, and fiber can help that. That's because health, one of the main parameters of health, is how regular you are. And fiber is the most important tool for keeping you regular. Chapter 5, water. Now, it may be surprising, but simple, plain old water is one of the most powerful nutrients that we have at our disposal. When we don't have enough water, our tissue shrivels up, especially our joint tissue. And one of the main results of dehydration is the pain of arthritis, the pain of joint disease. Now, has anybody's doctor said to them when they came in and complained of arthritis, well, you need to be drinking water? No. Okay, we get aspirin, we get Motrin, We get drugs. By the way, do you know 16,000 people a year die from Motrin, from gastric bleeding? Do you know every day in this country a child is killed by aspirin overdose? Aspirin and Motrin and Tylenol, which is a leading cause of liver problems and liver disease, are toxic drugs. They should be the alternatives. Water should be the primary form of medicine. Dyspepsia, pain, ulcer pain in the stomach, can be caused by lack of water. When you drink water, you thin your blood, so more blood gets to your brain, so you think more clearly. In fact, if you drink 2 full glasses of water in the morning tomorrow, when you get up, you'll have more energy almost right away, because water allows more blood to flow into the brain for more energy. Cold water is a great weight loss tool, because your body has to heat the cold water to body temperature, and it causes you to burn calories. Drinking a gallon of cold water every day is a great way to lose weight. You want to be urinating every 2 hours. If you're not, you're going into dehydration, and guess what? You're dehydrated before you're thirsty. You won't notice that you're dehydrated until it's too late. You want to drink even when you're not thirsty. You want to drink like it's medicine. You want to drink water like it's medicine. When you want water, when your body wants water, it just wants water. It doesn't want anything else. And most water from municipal water plants contain lots of other things. Lots. In fact, if you go buy a humidifier at the department store and you read the instructions, it says, don't use tap water. And guess what? If tap water isn't good enough for your humidifier, it's not good enough for you. If it'll clog up your humidifier, and it will, I did an experiment. I decided, well, what would happen if I ran some tap water through my humidifier? You wouldn't believe what was on that filter, folks. Okay, now remember, there are 70,000 chemicals out there that didn't exist 100 years ago, and they're all in the water. And the water treatment plants that are supposed to be treating for these chemicals treat maybe 10 or 12 of those 70,000 chemicals. Most of those chemicals are in our rivers from fertilizer runoff and from toxic runoff, and to this day there's industrial plants that are spewing their toxins into our water. In fact, there's not a city in this country that doesn't dump its raw sewage in the water and then throw chlorine or bromine or some kind of chemical to detoxify the raw sewage. And if they're happy if they're 90% or 95%, well, you know what? There's no appropriate percentage of raw sewage in your water. There's no appropriate percentage of toxins in your water. None. Zero. Now, reverse osmosis water, you may have heard of that, is also okay.